Ever wondered what lies beneath the opulent facade of Saudi Arabia? Join us on a journey as we delve into the shadows of this affluent nation. From human rights violations to clandestine drug markets and underground prostitution rings, Saudi Arabia harbors a dark side often obscured by its glittering wealth and grandeur. Brace yourself as we uncover the unsettling truths lurking behind the kingdom's lavish exterior. So, without any further delay, let's get started. The Iron Grip of Wahhabism. Nestled within the cultural and legal framework of Saudi Arabia lies the formidable influence of Wahhabism, a strict interpretation of Islam that dictates societal norms and governance. Rooted in the teachings of Muhammad ibn Abd al-Wahhab and enforced through Sharia law, Wahhabism exerts an iron grip over the kingdom's social, political, and religious spheres. Under this doctrine, women, religious minorities, and LGBTQ individuals face systematic discrimination and marginalization, their rights and freedoms curtailed in the name of religious purity. Women are bound by stringent dress codes and guardianship laws, relegating them to subordinate roles within society. Religious minorities encounter barriers to practicing their faith openly, while LGBTQ individuals are forced to conceal their identities or face severe punishment under the law. Political dissent is swiftly silenced, with dissenters labeled as threats to national security and subjected to arbitrary arrests, imprisonment, and even execution. The monarchy's alliance with Wahhabi clerics ensures a tight grip on power, stifling any opposition and perpetuating a climate of fear and repression. Despite occasional gestures towards reform, the core tenets of Wahhabism remain deeply entrenched in Saudi society, shaping its laws, customs, and cultural norms. As the kingdom navigates the delicate balance between tradition and modernization, the influence of Wahhabism continues to cast a long shadow over its path towards progress and change. The grim reality of arbitrary justice. Within the corridors of Saudi Arabia's judicial system, the specter of arbitrary justice looms large, casting a shadow of fear and uncertainty over its citizens. Under the guise of upholding religious and societal norms, the monarchy employs draconian measures to silence dissent and maintain control. Political opponents, activists, and outspoken individuals find themselves targeted by a legal apparatus that operates with impunity and little regard for due process. Arrests are often made without warrants, with detainees subjected to prolonged detention without access to legal representation or fair trial. In cases deemed threatening to the regime, individuals may face extrajudicial killings or disappearances, their fate decided behind closed doors. The chilling saga of Jamal Khashoggi, a journalist brutally murdered within the confines of a Saudi consulate, serves as a stark reminder of the kingdom's willingness to silence dissent at any cost. Despite international outcry and calls for accountability, the perpetrators continued to evade justice, shielded by the cloak of impunity. As Saudi Arabia grapples with accusations of human rights abuses and violations, the need for transparency and accountability within its judicial system becomes increasingly urgent. Only through genuine reform and adherence to the principles of justice and fairness can the kingdom begin to shed its reputation as a purveyor of arbitrary justice and embrace a future built on trust and respect for the rule of law. The kingdom's deadly trade, drugs. Beneath the gleaming facade of Saudi Arabia's opulent cities lies a dark underbelly fueled by the insidious trade of narcotics. Despite its strict Sharia laws, the kingdom has emerged as a key player in the global drug trade, facilitating the production, distribution, and consumption of illicit substances. From methamphetamine to cannabis, Saudi Arabia serves as a hub for drug trafficking networks, with sophisticated smuggling routes spanning continents. Despite the grave consequences, including death penalties for drug trafficking, the allure of profit and addiction continues to drive the clandestine trade. Recent busts, including the seizure of millions of amphetamine tablets concealed within innocuous shipments, highlight the magnitude of the kingdom's involvement in the drug trade. While authorities vow to crack down on trafficking networks, the pervasive influence of drugs continues to plague Saudi society, particularly among its youth. As the kingdom grapples with the devastating impact of drug abuse, questions linger over its ability to stem the tide of narcotics flowing through its borders. Only through concerted efforts to address the root causes of addiction and strengthen enforcement measures can Saudi Arabia hope to eradicate the scourge of drugs and safeguard the well-being of its citizens. Shadows of exploitation, prostitution rings. In the shadows of Saudi Arabia's towering skyscrapers and bustling streets, a sinister trade thrives beneath the surface, the exploitation of vulnerable individuals in clandestine prostitution rings. Despite the kingdom's strict adherence to Sharia law, illegal brothels operate with impunity, preying on the marginalized and disenfranchised. Unemployed women and job-seeking girls often fall victim to the snares of brothel owners, lured under false pretenses and coerced into lives of exploitation. Through deceit and manipulation, these individuals are forced into acts of sexual servitude, their dignity and autonomy stripped away in the pursuit of profit. The plight of these victims is exacerbated by the lack of legal protections and recourse available to them. Fear of reprisal and societal stigma further entrenches their silence, perpetuating a cycle of abuse and exploitation. Despite sporadic crackdowns by law enforcement, the insidious nature of prostitution rings persists, driven by demand and enabled by a culture of impunity. From migrant workers to vulnerable youth, the specter of exploitation looms large, casting a shadow over the kingdom's reputation and moral integrity. As Saudi Arabia confronts the grim reality of exploitation within its borders, the need for comprehensive reforms and stringent enforcement measures becomes increasingly urgent. Only through concerted efforts to dismantle these criminal networks and protect the rights of the vulnerable can the kingdom begin to emerge from the shadows of exploitation and uphold the principles of dignity and justice for all. The illusion of progress. Crown Prince's reign. Amidst promises of reform and modernization, Saudi Arabia finds itself grappling with the complexities of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's reign. Publicly touted as a beacon of progressivism, his leadership has been marked by a series of controversial decisions and actions that paint a starkly different picture. Despite initiatives aimed at economic diversification and social liberalization, allegations of human rights abuses and suppression of dissent continue to tarnish the kingdom's image on the global stage. Political opponents and activists face arbitrary arrests and imprisonment, their voices silenced in the name of preserving stability and security. The tragic case of Jamal Khashoggi, a journalist brutally murdered within the walls of a Saudi consulate, stands as a sobering reminder of the perils of dissent under the current regime. Despite international condemnation and calls for accountability, justice remains elusive, highlighting the impunity enjoyed by those in power. As Saudi Arabia navigates the complexities of modernization, questions linger over the sincerity of its commitment to reform and the true intentions behind its purported progress. In the corridors of power and prosperity, Saudi Arabia's shadows loom large, casting a stark contrast to its image of luxury and grandeur. As we confront the harsh realities of human rights abuses, drug trafficking, and exploitation, we are reminded of the urgent need for transparency and accountability. Let us not turn a blind eye to the injustices festering beneath the surface, but instead strive for a future where all voices are heard and all lives are valued. Thank you for joining us today. If you found this exploration insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant. Goodbye for now.